For chapter 2, I thought it was very informational as far as going over the different biotechnologies and how things are done, as far as DNA, all the different forms of DNA and how they interact and how they change those things in order to get the result that they want in the biotechnology. So I thought it was interesting the decoding the DNA in order to find things like markers for cancer, markers for certain diseases, as well as how the Human Genome Project came into that with discovering all those things and making sure that we had a system that they were all being going into so that the data can be used for generations. Kind of like how we have those ancestry DNA tests that we can do now. We didn't have that before. So it's really interesting to see how that biotechnology of the Human Genome Project to decode our DNA has led to everyday applications such as finding your family history or seeing if you have genetic markers for certain diseases that they've decoded. So something I was more interested in because I've been trying to be healthy was more of the agricultural genetic modified food portion of the chapter. I thought it was interesting that they're able to decide which plants to crossbreed in order to prevent things like plants that don't survive in droughts and plants that are resistant to pests so that they're able to grow better crops. And while I appreciate that they're trying to do better by doing that, I also don't feel like I like that they can genetically modify things for that. Now, if it were natural and it was a natural thing to plant, I feel that that would be okay, but to genetically modify it with something that's not natural for that plant, while it's good for the business, I don't feel in the long term it's going to be good for humans. I work in the medical field. I've noticed that there's things that weren't as prevalent before that are now, and whether that's food, whether that's something else, I don't know. But the thing I know is that technology is being more in our food and in our agriculture and in every aspect of our life. There has to be some sort of connection between those. The artificial enzymes that it mentioned for like the cow cheese was or the cheese enzyme that they use from a calf's stomach. That's what it was. I thought that was interesting that that's how cheese was made with enzymes that were in a calf's stomach. Great that they found an artificial way to do it. I know that helps out a lot of people who refuse to eat certain cheeses, probably because of their vegetarian beliefs. I also thought it was very interesting when it mentioned cloning, that Dolly was originally created to produce drugs in her milk. Drugs like insulin, which is great for diabetics because we have a bunch of those. But it's just interesting that they would use cloning for that application versus just to clone. So clearly there's some research that has progressed to lead us into this new world of trying to produce drugs in different animals in different ways. As far as cloning goes, I have no problem with it. I feel that, I mean, if you're doing the research, as long as everyone's being treated respectfully, and then I have no problem with it. I know a lot of people do for religious reasons, but I'm a very scientific person and I believe that we should keep on learning. So if that's the way that we have to progress our world into learning more, then I'm for it as long as it's done with a good mind and respect for all living things. I have no problem with it. Overall, the chapter was very good about going in depth into the different things that are used during these biotechnologies, and it's very interesting to get a scientific look at technology in that way.